This might be, and I'm trying really hard not to over-exaggerate here, the most broken land they printed in 25 years. And this is from SBMTG on Twitter. This is from April 30th. The new land cycle from Modern Horizons 3, well, more of a, not a cycle, but land prints from Modern Horizons 3 have garnered some discussion lately. I'm a few days late on this, but I figured I'd weigh in. Ugin's Labyrinth here is a very powerful card, especially in constructed formats, where you can play 4-ofs, where your deck size is only 60 instead of 100. And it reads, when it enters the battlefield, you may exile a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater from your hand. And it says tap, add a colorless. If the card exiled with Ugin's Labyrinth, add 2 colorless instead. And then you can tap it to return the exiled card to its owner's hand. And so basically, this is a soul land. This is similar to Eldrazi Temple in colorless decks. It will be very strong in colorless decks in Commander, by and large. So Zuladoc, Kozilek, Graz the Unstoppable Juggernaut, maybe Karn Legacy, maybe, depending on how you build it. Any number of Eldrazi decks are going to benefit from this. And so the funny thing is, like, yes, I think this person was referring more to constructed formats with Ugin's Labyrinth, but it gets to the discussion of, like, utility lands in Magic, and I'm going to focus on Commander especially. And so there's a bunch of posts here. People say Planar Nexus, it might not even be the most broken land in its own release, because Planar Nexus, when you combine it with the other Urza lands, let me just type that in here. So I had it, but I have a whole bunch of... So Urza's Urza's Mine, Power Plant, and Tower. These, when combined with Planar Nexus, are going to tap for either 2 or 3 mana. So on turn 2, you are creating, up to 4 mana with Planar Nexus. So the funny thing is, like, this might actually be better than Ugin's Labyrinth in some cases, because you don't have to build around it in quite the same way, although they could go in the same deck in theory, and neither of them is legendary, similar to Eldrazi Temple. And so another poster, Dan on Twitter, said, I think it's very good, but you're overlooking some other absurd lands. So you have Cloud Post, you have Eye of Ugin, Field of the Dead, and of course Urza's Saga. And Urza's Saga is played in 7% of EDH rec decks, which is a huge number. Again, I say anything over, like, I said 5% last time. Anything over like 3 or 4% on EDH rec is massive, because there's so many cards in the format. Urza Saga it's an enchantment land, and it can make a colorless mana, and then it can make a construct on the second phase, and on the third phase you tutor for an artifact with mana cost 0 or 1. A lot of times that's Soul Ring, and you get that and you put it into play. And so here, I'll type in Soul Ring. So you get a Soul Ring off the Urza Saga. That card is probably stronger than Ugin's Labyrinth in most decks. Ugin's Labyrinth is probably going to be primarily weighted towards colorless decks, in Commander especially. But as you scroll down, more people are mentioning Urza Saga. People are mentioning Chalice because of modern legacy implications. Is it banned in one of those? It might be. I'm not sure. Again, this is a Commander channel. I'm not an expert on the other land cycles. So, but yeah, like the Field of the Dead type cards, Glacial Chasm, which I have here as well. I'm just going to start tabbing through. So here's the Modern Horizons 3 lands that are so far have been spoiled. So we do get the allied fetches, which are nice. Snow-Covered Wastes, which is a new one, I think, and Urza's Cave is the last one. This is interesting because it lets you tutor for a land card put on the battlefield tap. So you essentially get to crop rotation. It's crop rotation on a land, kind of. I mean, it kind of is. It's a colorless land, so you can put this in a lot of decks. If your deck cares about specific lands, great. If you have like a Maze's Ith type of thing. So Ugin's Labyrinth. Here are the soul lands, and there's Temple of False God. I have a separate video on that. Ancient Tomb is kind of the gold standard, and so on and so forth. And so, how does Urza's Labyrinth compare? Sorry, I keep saying Urza's Labyrinth. How does Ugin's Labyrinth compare to other problematic lands like Glacial Chasm? Ugin's Labyrinth is just like, it's a strong land. I would not say that it warps the game too hard, especially in Commander when you're much less consistent. You have one copy in a 100-card deck. Your colorless Commander deck is not going to be dependably getting an Ugin's Labyrinth on turn 1. Like, you might get it sometimes, but nevertheless. So Glacial Chasm, this is a game warping land. This was mentioned on the MTG Goldfish cast. Field of the Dead, same deal, game warping. Urza Saga, as mentioned. So then you have Urborg and Cabal Coffers, and then also the Yavimaya, which I think I scrolled past. But then you have these other lands that just produce a crap ton of mana. Serra Sanctum, Gaia's Cradle. These lands are stronger than Ugin's Labyrinth, in my opinion, because you don't have, I mean, you can build around them in a number of ways rather than just going full colorless. And Cabal Coffers, mostly mono black. You could do it in 2 color decks with the Urborg. Nykthos is also very good in monocolor decks, makes a ton of mana. Yavimaya helps with all of these lands as well. So then you have the cycle of the Kamigawa channel lands. Boseiju, Who Endures. This card is insane. Now, it doesn't warp the game, but it's just such a staple. Holy crap. 19% of eligible decks are playing this land, and I would argue it should be 100, but it's a $36 card, because it's a green mana-producing land, and what it does is it comes in untapped, and then you have the option from your hand to channel it to destroy artifact or enchantment or non-basic land that an opponent controls. So actually, this card kind of helps against the other problematic lands, and then they can search for a land and put it into play. But like, this card is way more ubiquitous than the Ugin's Labyrinth, and so you have the whole cycle of this. Otawara, this bounces artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker, super strong. Iganjo, 4 damage to attacking or blocking a creature. This is just my computer buckling under the weight of all these tabs I have here. I thought that'd be funny to put in here. Then you have Takenuma and, Mace's End. So Urza's, it's the Urza's card. The Urza's cave can search for cards like Mace's End. And so this is where we're getting into the land strategies. And so land decks have an inherent advantage in Commander because you're facing against opponents who don't want to get their lands destroyed beyond like an occasional strip mine effect. And so cards like Maze's End can be very powerful. Mystic Sanctuary is abusable with counter spells, extra turn effects, etc. Then you have the MDFC lands, Scavenger Grounds, Strip Mine, Hall of Helios Generosity, Academy Runes, Thespian Stage, World Tree, and then just like a variety of other lands. This land I hate, by the way. I want to make a separate like mini video on Homeward Path. Lands should have a mana ability, much like Urza's Cave. If this was just tap to do the ability, that would be absurd. Homeward Path is absurd because it sits in play and it invalidates entire strategies. So if I wanted to play like Insurrection, if I can spell that correctly. So Insurrection, if I want to play anything like this and you have Homeward Path, it's a counter spell at all times permanently. And this is a huge issue. This is like a salt score. This thing should be a salt score of like a 3.0 in my opinion, but nobody plays it because it's kind of a corner case. And you're like, well, you can build around it in weird ways, or you just hope they're playing like a threaten effect. So it's like, yeah, it's not really a problem, but it should have been costed like 3 mana tap and then do the ability, because this is insane. But anyway, sidebar. Haven of the Spirit Dragon, Wasteland, Volrath Stronghold. Lands that just sit and play and cause problems, cause havoc. These are an issue. And so Ugin's Labyrinth is very powerful. I don't think it's as good as Urza's Saga, which I have here. I think, well, in terms of like ubiquity. And so, yeah, Ugin's Labyrinth, it's the new land on the block. Planar Nexus is also going to be very strong. And to close it out, the SBMTG made a fixed post. This might be, and I'm trying really hard not to over-exaggerate here, one of the most probably pretty good lands they printed this month. So, good self-awareness right there. Very funny. Yeah, so Ugin's Labyrinth and the general idea of utility lands in Commander. People don't like getting their lands killed. Is it really a big problem? I would say, like, with cards like Field of the Dead, which we talked about in previous videos, in Glacial Chasm, I think it could be a problem. Ugin's Labyrinth just accelerates your mana. I think this itself is not as bad as cards like Field of the Dead. However, if we get a critical mass of utility lands, which we arguably are already there, then the game could become a little bit of an issue, and then people are forced to play cards. Well, not forced, but Blood Moon effects. So like people are going to play cards like Blood Moon to combat this, and then just a regular casual player without any crazy lands is going to be like, oh, what the heck? Why am I getting Blood Moon? And so yeah, actually, Blood Moon and the new Winter Moon is going to be a separate video that I'll make pretty soon here. And so yeah, these type of effects are going to be used to combat the utility lands, but at what cost? And so I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at the question to the listeners. What do you guys think of utility lands in EDH? Do you think they are too strong? Do we have too many good ones? Should any of them be banned? I mean, is that kind of a question there? What do you guys think in the comments?